to cover today is not only a little bit about the operation, but also some troubleshooting the components contained in the Synergy option series, which you see right here in front of me. What we're going to do now is just step through kind of the features of it, the proper operation of the piece, so we all have an understanding of what is all included in the piece. Then we'll step through the components and then some troubleshooting of the cups if there are any issues with the piece. So included in here are two cup holders, one in each arm, that operate not only the power recline, but also the headrest and the lights in the cup. So going through the function of those, if you press the power recline key, you should get a corresponding function. Similarly with the headrest, a light touch on the buttons should produce the desired reaction. The light key itself will illuminate the cup light ring in the cup. In addition, this piece also has reading lights contained under this headrest area right here. To access, we need to lift up the headrest. Individual switches for each side should illuminate when switched. There's also a power strip in this under here. Now, in order to access this table and power strip area, you need to raise the headrest on this. You cannot access without raising the headrest. In here, press the button. We'll see our power strip. A green light indicates that everything is operating properly and that there's power to the unit here. So functionally, those are the functions of the chair. Now we're going to step through kind of the components contained in here, and then we'll do a little bit of troubleshooting, hopefully so everybody has an understanding of what components might need replacement at any one time. All right, what we're going to cover here is the components contained internally in the options series. We'll walk through all the components here so you have an understanding of the different pieces before we get to the troubleshooting phase. This will also give you an opportunity to view what might be replaced should there be an issue. What we've got representative samples of a headrest motor, a power recline motor, the actual cup holder itself, and the dual reading light that we saw in the first phase of this video. And this is our power supply that is contained in the back of the chair plugged into the wall. So again, with our cup holder, we press power recline, we should see the corresponding function on our power recline motor. Similarly with the headrest motor. And the light should operate the light function in the cup. The cup itself is two parts. There's the cup, down to its disconnect, and a junction. So, cup holder is here. This is the junction. The junction itself has the 5-pin DIN connection, which goes to the motor. Now the junction and cup holder can be separated, and not in each case, not in each of these components will need to be replaced. There's a Molex connector here, and then a small 2-pin connector, which will separate the cup from the junction. This small 2-pin connector is critical for the light function at the base of the cup. If that is not connected, you will get no function out of the light ring in the cup. So again, we've got two pieces to our cup holder. We've got the cup itself and the junction. We'll cover this in our troubleshooting phase also. And the other component we're going to cover right here is the dual reading lights, which we saw in the headrest of the piece. And the dual reading light it is one component with a disconnect, which will be located in the headrest area up here. Should the light itself fail, you can disconnect, replace the light, but not have to replace the wiring that runs in the back of the chair. In addition, in the piece is a conversion junction that is plugging in on a Y cord to our 29-volt power supply and subsequently plugs into the light. If there's ever an issue with the lights themselves, first step is to make sure that all of these connections are firmly seated and that we don't have any loose connections. This portion of our video is going to focus on troubleshooting and replacement of either the cup holder or the junction itself. Again, as we saw before, when we were talking cup holder, there's two components to the cup holder unit. The cup holder itself with its two disconnects and the junction. As we go through this troubleshooting phase, we'll talk about replacement of each of these components and when it is likely that one or the other has to be replaced. In most instances, if there is a problem with the cup holder, it will be the junction that will need to be replaced. But first, to start any troubleshooting, what we want to do is if there's an issue, ensure one, that we have a green light on our 29 power supply coming from the wall outlet, and that green light should be steady green, not blinking green. It should be a steady green. If it's a blinking green, it indicates a problem in some other component or in the power supply itself. We'll also want to make sure that all our connections are firmly seated. As we go through the troubleshooting here, we will show you all those connections and what it means to be firmly seated for each individual component. All right, first part of our troubleshooting phase, should we have a problem with the cup holder, the first thing we're going to do is verify all our connections are good and that our power supply is operating properly. So we've got our power supply, in this case power plugged into a surge protector. We're going to verify, yes, we have a green light and it's a steady green on our power supply, so there's no issue with our power supply. We're also going to make sure that our connection coming out of the back of the piece is connected firmly and the lock is closed. Once we get past that phase and you see that everything's good, we can start underneath the piece, check all connections, make sure everything's seated firmly. That's what we'll do next. Okay, what we're going to do here, we verify our power supply is good, we've got the steady green light. We're going to unplug power from the piece as we start our next diagnostic here, and we're going to roll the piece gently forward, making sure not to damage or scuff anything. And we're going to observe our connections on the underside of the piece. What we've got here is a zippered area that contains both the junction and the connections for the cup holder. The cup wiring will run along this rail here and plug into the motor here. There's a 5-pin DIN connection, which we saw earlier, coming from the motor. We need to make sure that is firmly seated in place. As we get up into the arm cavity here, there's the 2 connections. The 2-pin light ring connection, make sure that is firmly seated, and our Molex connection here, we make sure that is firmly seated. Once we verify that all of those connections are firm, we don't have any frayed cords, we don't have any cut cords, we can then determine what our next issue is. Is it an issue with the junction of the cup holder or the cup holder itself? What we're going to demonstrate now is replacing the cup holder junction. Again, the cup holder junction is this piece right here. This is referred to as the cup holder junction. It's located in the arm cavity, and we're going to demonstrate replacing that right now. First thing we're going to do is we're going to unzip the exposed cavity in our arm. Junction will be located on the side wall of either arm. We'll pull the junction out. Locate our connectors to the cup holder right here. Again, we've got 2 connectors. Disconnect both connections. And we should be able to pull the junction out of the cavity. Now, the wires are going to run to the motor along this rail here. There are zip ties on here, which will need to be removed. So we'll take a small cutter. We'll cut our zip ties. Now we'll be able to remove and disconnect our 5-pin DIN from the motor. Again, this is the motor connection. This right angle 5-pin DIN is coming off the junction that we're currently replacing. Once all our zip ties are removed, you can simply pull the 5-pin DIN out of the coil cord protective cover and remove our junction. Now, when we want to reassemble and install our new junction, take our junction and basically reverse the process here. Place our junction, 5-pin DIN, connection to the motor, feed our wires along the rail, made our 2 connections, make sure that they're firmly seated, and then place our wires back in the protective cover. All right, now we've got all our connections made. We've got the wire rerun through our protective housing. Last step in replacing a cup holder junction is to install some more wire ties to hold everything in place. So we're going to install a wire tie. Here are our connections down here. And then we'll install a few along the rail here, leading up to our junction. Once our wire ties are installed, our last step is to ensure that our junction is inside our cavity and re-zippering our cavity. If you need a little slack, just gently pull on the wire without disconnecting from anything and install it back into the cavity and zip your cavity. And that completes replacing the junction on the cup holder. Okay, the next replacement we're going to demonstrate is that of the cup itself. Again, we've got the two pieces. The junction, we already demonstrated the replacement of the junction. And then at the disconnect here, anything above or forward of the disconnect is considered the cup holder. We're going to demonstrate the replacement of this. Tools for this, you're going to need a Phillips screwdriver, and that should be all you need. What we're going to do here, first step in replacement, is again, open up the zipper to access the arm cavity. We're going to find the connection between the junction and the cup holder. There's two wires there, the 2-pin here, and this larger Molex connector. We'll disconnect both of those connections. Now the cup itself is disconnected from the junction. Our next step is going to be to turn the couch upright and remove the cup and drop in the replacement. Alright, next step in replacing the cup holder. We've already done our disconnection in the arm cavity of the two connectors. Next step, we'll want to remove plastic cover from the foam cover from the bottom. And we'll see there's two Phillips screws in there that we'll remove. Got my two screws removed, and my cup will be able to be pulled out. And as I see, I've got both my connections on there, and the cup is removed. Now what I'll do is I'll take my replacement cup, I will feed my wires on the side of the rail that's in here, just as I removed the previous ones, just as they came out. Feed my wires into the arm cavity. Once I have my wires down there, I can reinstall my cup, aligning the buttons of the cup as they were before to the rear of the piece, and secure my cup back in place with my two screws. Now once I get the cup secured again, I will have to access the panel, the inside arm again through the zipper, and reattach both connections. Now my cup is in, I'll reinstall my foam pad. Okay, now we've replaced our cup holder, we've secured it in place. Next step is just to reconnect our two connectors. So if we reach into our cavity, we'll find the cup holder connectors for the new cup we just installed. Again, we've got this 6-pin Molex and we've got this 2-pin. We'll find those opposite connectors off of our junction, which are right here. Connect them, seat them firmly, and lock them in place. Insert our wires back into the cavity. Zip up the cavity, and we've replaced the cup holder. Now that we've replaced either a junction or the cup holder, we've reapplied power by plugging back in the power supply and the power strip. We're going to check the function of the piece to ensure that any problem is corrected. So we check the power recline, that's that's a check. Headrest, and the light functions on the side that we replace the cup holder. We replace the junction over here. Power recline operates fine. Headrest is operational. Light is operational. Check our reading light just to make sure no connections were loosened. And check to see that our power strip light is green. And that's a check. So we've got a fully functional piece again after our parts replacement. Okay, in this phase, all I want to do is kind of talk through some of the common symptoms that you may observe or common issues that someone may say they're having with the options piece. The first one is if there's a customer that has no lights illuminated on either cup holder, then we want to look at the power supply. That indicates that there's no power to the piece. We'll check the power supply, ensure we have that green light on and it's steady. So that is the number one check on that. And again, if anything, the first thing we're going to do is make sure we have that power and that we have connections seated properly. If you have a cup holder that does not respond to a touch, when I press the power recline, nothing occurs, or I press the headrest and it will not move as it's supposed to, that indicates that the junction likely has an issue and needs to be replaced. If you have a light ring on a cup that will turn on but won't turn off after it's on, we need to go back and we need to check that 2-pin connector, make sure that this 2-pin is seated properly into the cup holder from the junction, and if it is, that may indicate again an issue with the junction. If, again, we have operation of the power recliner or the headrest, but it seems to be intermittent and it is not consistent, meaning that if I press this and it'll work, but I press it again and it won't, or if I press the headrest and it'll work, but sometimes it won't work, that indicates that there may be an issue with the cup holder, and we want to replace the cup holder component. Again, we're not having to replace both components, just one or the other. In this case, it would be the cup holder. If there's no response, everything functions on the cup, but there's no response from the light, my light ring does not turn on, that indicates that either our 2-pin connector that applies power to the light ring in the cup to the junction is either not connected or there's an issue with the button on the cup. So the first step would be to check that 2-pin connector. If that is seated properly, then next step would be to replace the cup holder itself. If we have a cup, we've checked our power supply, everything functions, but there's not a button or multiple buttons are not illuminated on the cup holder, that indicates also a problem with the cup holder lighting, and just a simple replacement of the cup holder, not the junction, will take care of the problem. So these are some of the issues you may encounter, and again, likely it's one component or the other that will need to be replaced. There is a troubleshooting guide that we put together that lists these common symptoms and what is the number one issue or number one component that would be the target for replacement if the issues are observed. You'll see that as a slide at the end of this presentation here, and we also can provide copies if you need them. In the event that there is an issue you'd like to ask questions on, or you need components on, feel free to always call us at Raffle System, the supplier of the cup holder and the dual reading light here. We can walk you through any diagnosis. We can also provide you parts, and we can help you diagnose exactly and down to the component what is the issue. As always, if you are replacing components and we're sending replacements, it's critical that we try to get some of those components back so that we can evaluate and actually give you a diagnosis of what happened to that and hopefully improve upon that product as the time goes on. So again, do not hesitate to give us a call at Raffle Systems. Again, you'll see a slide coming up here that'll give you our 1-800 number plus a customer service email that you can contact us at.